Hey everyone, Stegar here, and welcome back to Fairview. In last week's episode, we were working on the beach as well as the hillside next to it. And in today's episode, we're going to fill in the empty space between the beach and the farms to the right of it with a high school and a few more houses. And later in the episode, we'll also start working on some farms to the top of that area. So the first thing I did was place down a few sports fields here. This soccer field and the two football fields off to the right of this area. And the football field decals are by King Leno and just called football field decals. And the football field goals are by that even, and I'm just using them to add a bit of detail because decals don't have any football field goals on them. And I was just adding some fields there first because I felt that it would be easier to work with the space if I already had those put down. And I wanted quite a few in this high school as there's not really any other sports facilities on this side of the city. And now we're working on the high school, and the buildings I'm using are the Consolidated High School set by Cristo Listo. And that's just a collection of various different buildings of the same style that you can use, and if you want, clip together, or you can have them all freestanding like I am here. And the capacities of those buildings are a lot lower than regular high school buildings, but it's because you can basically just create one big high school complex out of multiple buildings, and classroom blocks only hold about 150 people compared to the 1,000 or so that you get with the Vanilla High School. And here I was just placing down this concrete wall by Lost Gecko to try and cover up the height difference a bit and make it look a bit cleaner. And using the terraforming network to flatten out the area below it and putting ploppable surfaces at the top to try and fix things up the best I could. But as you can see here, the soccer field is still causing some kind of jagged bits, but that's not too noticeable, and it's a lot better than what it looked like beforehand. And more ploppable surfaces over here, and I put down a staircase too so that people can walk up here, and added another way up for people later on so that those that are disabled and can't use the stairs can still get up to these classrooms. I wanted to add a high school here anyway because we needed one in the city. The demand for education for teenagers was getting quite high, so I decided that today we would add a high school in here, and it's also a good way to fill up this large area. And kind of the building density and stuff, it looks a lot better not having all sorts of houses all throughout this area as we're trying to transition out into farmland and things. I mean, there are still those apartments and things that I built along the beachside in the last episode, but that's kind of a land value thing and why they were built there when some of the other buildings are a lot lower density and not two-story townhouse apartment thingies. And kind of here's the way up to the other classrooms here, and I'm just adding some trees and curbs and things to try and cover it up along with vegetation along here and some trees soon. After this, I kind of move over to working on the rest of the area beside it, including a parking lot and things for where kids can park. I guess if they're old enough to drive, they have an opportunity to park at the high school. And also the location is good compared to the other one because it means that people from this side of the city can go to this high school, and people from the other side of the city can go to the other high school, which is on the other side of the downtown area. And I built that in episode 9 of the series. And here I was just starting on this parking lot and putting down some ploppable surfaces that I converted into procedural objects so that they would fit in the space that was left over, and just kind of messing around with them a bit to try and cover up parts of where the path is joining and the rounded end of the parking lot road, and just leaving a little bit of space for the concrete to show through and make it look like a path, and just like it's normally there rather than having all this messed up stuff going on, which I was really doing, and also sloping the terrain here so that it is a lot easier for people to walk up without like changing gradients and stuff and placing down these parking lots. I think there's run a little bit of a slope. I don't think it was too bad though, but it's probably still noticeable. It's kind of just something that I forget to worry about at the time sometimes, and realise that after, and don't really often fix this stuff. I mean, it was pretty bad a few episodes ago, but hopefully that's been fixed in this one at least. And here I'm starting on this kind of the second part of this episode, which is filling out the rest of this large space with a whole lot of houses and things. I created a custom road with a whole lot of trees on it that I'll use in this area soon once I've finished placing these buildings down. But it just had a whole lot of maple trees on it, the fall version, and a few other fall trees on it too, and I tried varying them on that street, but it didn't really work out, and oftentimes you get different trees clipping through each other, so I might change that at some point and then just upgrade all the roads in the city, because I changed a lot of the roads in the city that were the suburban street by urbanists, and I just went into the asset editor and removed the trees from that road and changed them to fall trees, because they had vanilla trees on them, and I decided for a change, both because of the vanilla trees aren't that detailed, and also because the fall theme of the city didn't really fit with having the vanilla trees there. And this is the road that I was talking about. And here we're going to mainly put down construction sites, as I imagine that this area is still under development, and still kind of some houses have been built here, like you can see what I'm placing down now, and some are yet to be built. I mean, they've been started, but they haven't been finished. And beside this, I also work on another area, but I'll talk about that when we get there. So here I'm building a new development. I'm not really sure how realistic putting down these white lines are. I don't think it's very realistic, but I did it anyway and kind of wasn't sure about it and never got around to changing things about it. And I'm just placing down a road to kind of mark out where some construction will be for the road, and I'm just putting it down to try and get these outlines. Again, I don't think this is very realistic, and you just put little metal pegs in the ground and that kind of marks the corners of the land boundaries and things. But anyway, I'm doing this and it is a bit weird and looks wrong from when you look out in the distance and stuff in aerial view. And here I was just putting down some dirt decals to kind of create an area where the road would be built, and it's just being prepared and dug out at the moment, as this is kind of in the early phases of a construction and not like half built like the other houses next to it. And putting down some of the oil texture too to, oil resource to kind of change the grass texture as well, because it just kind of creates a different colour. And I've also been doing that throughout some of the farmlands that I built in the previous episode. And finishing it off with some cones to kind of mark off where the area is and keep people out, hopefully. And here I'm starting on the farms and building a new road to kind of give people access on the other side. And there'll be 2 houses up here, and it just kind of finishes on that hill because it was way too steep to really kind of connect it up with anything else. And I'm just bringing this road along the side of the cliff here, and it connects up with another road, but I built that off camera, and that was where I was using the Network Rivers by Mac Welshman for the first time. I was thinking about doing a tutorial on those, but I don't really see what I can offer that's different to the 2 that are already on YouTube by BonBonB and by Pug Gaming. And here I was just building a house. I think one of these houses, the house is from the University City Content Creator Pack. I could be wrong about that. And putting these maple trees along the driveway to kind of create like a little avenue sort of thing. And it looks really nice. It's probably one of my favourite parts of the city because of the way that it looks when you look down there at the right angles. And I've been using that in the introduction shots for the past few weeks, as I kind of created a generic introduction thing for the series that just kind of gives you a quick glimpse of some things in the city if you're new to it, I guess, or if you just want a refresher. Here I was doing some detailing around this house and putting down some decals and bushes and kind of trying to fence it off from the rest of the paddocks and stuff where there'll be sheep in this one, I think. And kind of changing things around with procedural objects on this gazebo because I didn't really like the little stepping stone things in front of it, as it's kind of made for flat land and this is kind of on a hillside, so it's not very flat. And here I'm marking out some of the farm fields. I'm kind of not sure about the size of these. It's actually really hard to tell when you're building it, even with precision engineering. And I think I got it about right. I was looking around on Google Maps and measuring out some farm fields after building this, and I think it's fairly accurate, or I might have been measuring that out before I built this and used that as a guide. And putting down some pine trees along the edges of these fields to shelter them from wind so that animals don't get blasted by heavy winds if they come through during the winter time. And I'll leave you for a few minutes with some more music and be back to talk about the next farm when we start building more of it. So here I was working on a pathway between the homestead of this farm and a milking shed for this farm because it's going to be a dairy farm. And I just had the milking shed sitting down the bottom there connected to that other road and this house here that I used prop it up on to remove all the trees and things. And just finishing off the fences here and just creating the paddocks for the cattle to stay in. And fencing off this walkway too. This was quite steep, so the only real thing that I could do here was farms, because you can't put houses all over the steep terrain like this. It's either farms or a park, and I did a park in the last episode, so farms it is, and also we're trying to transition out of the city. In today's cinematics there won't be a before and after, as when I recorded it, it didn't really line up. I think the field of view had changed because I restarted the game or something. But it looks a bit weird because the final the first cinematic shot is a bit slow because it was going to be the after shot of the before and after, but I just used that in place because I didn't have anything else to use. And you saw me there using the oil texture again to try and change the colours of things. And I'm placing down the cows and a few trees around here. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave a like, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe for more and ring the notification bell so that you get notified when I upload. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.